I forgot recording, so I was like talking for a while and then realized I didn't record it. Right, so let's get started. So we are going to look into four type of tissues. They are epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscle tissues, and nerve tissues. So what you need to know is that what is their features. So epithelial tissues are the one that cells packed together, uh, forming layers of structure. We will see these in our skin. We will also see these in the lining of our vessels and our internal organs. So these linings, the skins, are all epithelial tissues. The features is that cells are packed together, forming layer structure. Connective tissue is different. Connective tissue is that when you look at under the microscope, you will see that cells are distributed uh, separately, sparsely distributed, and so they are not packed together. And the thing to hold them in their space are metrics. These environment hold them in their position. So that's a feature. Muscle tissues are the one provide the movement. So we have three type of muscle tissues. We have skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and the smooth muscle. And the skeletal muscles are the one to move our skeleton. So we have the movement. Cardiac muscle form the heart. So heart can contrast to squeeze the blood out. So that provide the movement. It pump basically. Smooth muscle are the one forming in the wall of our digestive system, such as the esophagus, stomach, intestine. So they will squeeze the food, provide movement. They also form in the blood vessel. So vessel can contrast to squeeze the blood. Um, so that's the muscle. Nerve tissues are the cell. You will see the cells has elongated cell body to communicate between each other. Each cells will provide the electric impulse, and that will deliver signal from one cell to the next. Our nerve tissues are include the brain, that's called the central nervous system, spinal nerve, that's the central nervous system. We also have a sensory nerve and a motor nerve, so to communicate between different parts of our body. So we will look into each one of these. The first thing that we will look into is the epithelial tissues. So it's right here, epithelial tissues. So why is a feature? Feature is that the cells are packed together. So here is just some example of these epithelial tissues. You can see that there are some variations. Epithelial tissues can be found in the skin. Skin come from the ectoderm. They come from the germ layer. There are three germ layers. Skins come from the ectoderm. Uh, the epithelium can also be found in the digestive tract, right? So the esophagus, stomach, this inner lining of the digestive system, digestive organs come from mesoderm. So you can have epithelial tissues from mesoderm. You can also have the, sorry, it's not the digestive system is not the mesoderm. Digestive system is the endoderm. Yes. So the epithelium tissue of the airway and digestive system is the endoderm. You can also find you can also find the epithelium tissues in the blood vessel, and that blood vessel is mesoderm. So you have these epitheliums come from the ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. So in order to put these cells put together, we need something to hold them together. So because cell membrane are phospholipid, so they are slippery, and in order to put them together, you need something to tie them together. This tightening, we require cells will have proteins to tie them together. So in addition to the phospholipid, you have the proteins to tie them together. And these proteins are called tight junction to tie them together. Uh, Another form of these proteins is called gap junction. So the difference between gap junction and tight junction is that tight junction, tight, you can see that these two cells, these tight junctions, tight two cells together. Gap junction opens the ion channel to allow cells to share their intracellular environment with another cells. So gap junction over that options. We also have anchor junction. So in addition to those, we can have something more complicated, which is that not only cells tied together, these proteins also provide the anchor of the cytoskeleton. So we talked about in our earlier lecture, we learned that there are three types of cytoskeleton, uh, microfilaments formed by actin, intermediate filaments, microtubule formed by tubule. And so this cytoskeleton can anchor on these membrane protein. They cannot anchor on the lipid because lipid is just too slippery. So they need to anchor on something. And so these anchor junctions provide the lockage or the lock between two cells. It also provide the anchoring of this cytoskeleton. So you can see here is the intermediate filaments such as keratin. Keratin is very common in our skin. So this is the intermediate filament. This one is actin. This is the microfilament. Yeah, so they can anchor two cells together. And also these cytoskeleton can structure the cell, so cell will preserve their structure. It can also anchor cells into the base basal lamina. This is also called basement membrane. So you have this lining, you have this ground, it will just anchor on that ground. So that is this feature. These cells can also secrete stuff outside to the outside, so they can secrete stuff. So we call this gland. So some of these will form these epithelium structure, and then inside of these they will secrete it and push it out. This kind of secretion can be classified into two major type. Uh, One is called exocrine, right here, exocrine gland. Exocrine refers to that the secretion will moving the stuff outside of our body. Another type is called endocrine glands. So this endocrine is that when they secrete stuff, they are not going to outside of our body. They will stay inside. They will be transported by the blood circulating in our body. So those are the endocrine. And the endocrine stuff, when it secretes as an endocrine inside of our body, we usually call this substance hormones. So we have different kind of the hormones, and so that's the endocrine. Exocrines are the one to secrete into the surface of our body. So example will include the mucus, like saliva include the mucus. Saliva, that mucus come from saliva. But mucus is also in our nasal, in our esophagus, in our trachea, even though you don't really touch it, but we have this mucus all the way. So those are the outside of our body, because our oral cavity is basically outside of our body. Sweat is another example that secretes into the surface of our body. Milk is another example. So those are the exocrine. You need to know that if I have quiz question, I think I have a quiz question like, are these belong to the exocrine or endocrine? You need to know that these are exocrine. Yeah. So that is the epithelium. And let's take a break. And the next one is the connective tissue.